Hey y'all, this is Dollie Freeman, the creator of the Charlotte Mason Planning Framework. And today on the Charlotte Mason Show, I am excited to answer some of your probably pressing questions. Things like maybe, how do I use living books in the first place? And should I actually use living books instead of textbooks? Because I'm really not sure how to use it. If this is something that you're struggling with, I'm going to answer those questions with today's topic. I look forward to doing that. Before we get started though, how about we go ahead and introduce ourselves? Let me pull up this. I'd love you to say hello and tell me where you're where you're watching from, and that way we can have an interactive time. Hello, Danielle. I'm glad you're here over on YouTube. I'm really excited about today's topic because today is going to be a huge pushing forward in the realm of understanding how to use living books, living resources in your homeschooling. So I want to say hello to Elizabeth. Nice to have you here. Danielle, I'm in Virginia as well. So Fredericksburg, we're not that far from each other. I'm just east side of Richmond. So welcome. I know we have other watchers as well, but right now it just seems like everyone is over on YouTube. So I'm so happy that recently I was able to add that to this weekly show, almost weekly show. Hello, Kim from Canada, another YouTube watcher. So glad you guys are here. Today is going to be a good one, and how it's going to work is I'm going to actually pause in between. So anytime you have something that is a ha-ha moment, or perhaps something that just perked your curiosity, or perhaps made you understand things better, go ahead and comment as much as you want. I'm going to have different times throughout the show to come in and interact with you guys as well. So, and Elizabeth is from West Texas. Hopefully no snow this week. I know last week you had some snow. But let's go ahead and get started with today's topic. I gotta move my mouse over there. Okay, today's topic is, let me do this. Today's topic is how to use living resources in your homeschool. And I'm so excited about this topic because most homeschooling mamas who are very intrigued about the Charlotte Mason way often get hung up with this whole aspect of how they understand education to be with today's topics or today's education and how it looks, in trying to understand how do you go from a textbook to a living resource. And this is what's going to help you really open up your eyes and give you a clear understanding of exactly how to do this. And I'm real excited about that because for me, all those years back, it was something that really helped me to understand how to move forward. And it made the world of difference once I had these clear understandings in my head. So I hope this helps you as we move into today's topic. So the first step is to put living resources in front of your children and get out of the way of learning. So if you were on last week's live Charlotte Mason show, I shared with you that living books living resources are made up of three things, okay? You should watch the video because it's really helpful. But number one was books. Number two was the influences of people. And number three were audios and videos, which are part of number two, the influences of people. So these particular three things is what I'm talking about when I say put living resources in front of your children and then get out of the way. There is so much that we have on our own shoulders and our own understanding of education based on how we went to school and how education and learning looked to us. And then we bring that into homeschooling because the world we live in is one that pulls us very hard. And I get that and I understand that. But here's what I want you to understand. In the Charlotte Mason way, when done right, when done with the right habits in place and the right focus, with the right materials, you actually are raising your children to be self-educating. And in order for that to happen, we Charlotte Mason mamas need to get out of the way for learning to happen. This particular aspect is called the science of relationship. And I'm going to be talking about that I think it's in 2 weeks. So you're going to want to watch that show coming up. But the science of relationship cannot happen if we moms are always in the middle of helping our kids by down watering what's there and helping them process. They must be the ones doing that for themselves. Living isn't just about lessons. Are you hearing this, mamas? Living isn't just about lessons, but it includes every aspect of a child's life all day, every day. I want you to understand this because this here is where Charlotte Mason's elliptical orbit for the Charlotte Mason mamas come into play. Education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life. This is what we as Charlotte Mason mamas need to keep as a focus each and every day as we rise. And before we put our head down, we need to be realizing that education does not stop when the lessons are done, but it's a part of every day, every day. So this will help you to be able to put that into focus, is realizing that when you have living resources at your fingertips for your children surrounding their day, that it's easier to do when we're looking past the books, beyond the books. The Charlotte Mason quote will help you kind of begin to adopt your elliptical orbit of creating that atmosphere, that discipline in life for your family. And this quote is, "Do not let the endless successions of small things crowd out great ideals out of sight and out of mind." We Charlotte Mason mamas are very, very good at making these laborsome for us because we tend to think of all of those checklists. We need to make sure they do this, 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 this. We get overwhelmed with the whole lesson. And what we really need to do is take a step back, breathe a bit, and identify the living in our lifestyle. That's going to give our children these great understandings. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But what I want you to understand is when we are so tied to our planning list, which are important, they're an essential part of leading our children into self-education. So don't say that. Don't take that to say to push them out of the way, because that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that when we're only focused on that, and we're focused on those things of getting them done, do this, do that, do this and that, we are crowding out the ideals out of their mind and out of their sight. And so we need to be very careful to protect those important things that lead to self-education. And then with that, we are going to take an interaction break really quick and get your thoughts on step one. And to remind you, step one is to put living resources in front of your children and then get away, mamas. Don't be involved in their learning. You want them to create that science of relationship, which I'll teach about more in a couple weeks. But I would love to hear any thoughts that you might have, questions you might have about what that might look like, and to help you to process this important step. In fact, if you don't do this step well, the rest is going to be really hard to do, because it's within this step that a Charlotte Mason mom begins to empower her children to take ownership of their education. And without that ownership, it's going to be really, really hard for your children to actually find those habits that will lead to self-education. And if you know anything about me yet, you will know that that's what I'm known for. I'm known for raising self-educating children in our 20 years of homeschooling and being able to get our children to understand and take ownership of their education at a very early age, to the point where they're self-educating by middle school. So this is something that I really want you guys to understand. It starts here. It starts with making sure that you're putting those living resources and in front of your children and then stepping away. I want to say hello to Amanda. I think you stepped in and I have yet to say hello to you, so welcome. And I'm not seeing any comments on this, so I'm going to just keep going into the next step. Step number 2 is develop the habit of retelling what was read, heard, seen, observed, and done. Now you might be saying, what? Wait a second, Dolly. I did not know our children should be retelling all of these things. Well, guess what? They need to be. Retelling is what Charlotte Mason calls narration. That is something we hear time and time again in the Charlotte Mason community. Charlotte Mason often referred to it as retelling in a lot of her original series. And then it's also called narration. It's the same thing. And you want to develop that habit of retelling, not just what's in reading, but also of what they've heard. That could be a read aloud. It could be something that they listened on an audiobook. It could be something they watched on a DVD. It could be something they had in a conversation with a person in their life that has influenced them. Seeing can also be observation from outdoors, if they're watching something that's observed. But seeing can also be just what they've seen in their surroundings, of being able to say, oh, I just saw something, rather than observing. It's like a quick passing. So I want you to be able to do that and make sure that they have the ability to be able to retell. And I have some good news for you, mamas. This comes natural to children. This is something that's very, very natural. It's something that allows our children from the very little, they love to retell. And if you have ever watched a Disney show with your children, or have taken a family vacation, they retell naturally. They love the things that delight them, and they tell about that. So you want to develop that habit beyond those things and encourage it in their lessons and in their life and in their relationships that they have. The more you do that, the better it's going to be in their education. So I want you to realize that narration is a natural part of communication that needs to be mastered. This is not something that you take lightly. And I know I've been there. I nearly pulled my hair out with every child during that whole process of teaching narration. It's tedious. I get it. It's laborious. I get it. The more children you have, it's difficult. But what you have to understand, it's a natural part of communication. So when you're doing step 2 and you're making it part of what they do naturally, and what they read, what they hear, what they see, what they observe, and what they've done, it becomes natural in their lessons as well. So this is when you're empowering what they know in life and bring it into their lessons, and it becomes natural. The more you do that, the easier it is for them. Okay, and so you want to master this. You want them to become very gifted at narration, and you'll see why in a moment. Let's go into this Charlotte Mason quote that will help you understand exactly of what I am speaking about. Our aim in education is to give a full life. We owe it to them to initiate an immense number of interests. Life should be all living and not merely a tedious passing of time, not all doing or all feeling or all thinking. The strain would be too great, but all living. That is to say, we should be in touch wherever we go, whatever we hear, whatever we see, with some manner of vital interest. And this is where the whole, retelling of the things that they have read, and they've seen, they've heard, they've observed, then they've done. That's where this comes in. That creates that whole living life for your family, and will let them see that it's just, books are just a part. Lessons are just a part of living, and that they're doing that natural thing in their books as they are beyond their books. So this makes it just seem simple and a part of living in itself. So before moving on to step 3, let's talk about what your thoughts are on step 2. And while I'm waiting, I am feeling like we're having a struggle with Facebook, because I'm now looking up and seeing we're having a problem with Facebook not connecting, and I'm not seeing any comments. So if you can do me a favor and you can just type in, I still hear you, something like that, that will help me to know that we're not having a problem on YouTube as well. Because I definitely see Facebook is showing me that there is an alert, and I did not recognize that before going live. So that's on me. Thank goodness we're on 2 places, so that's good. We can shoot people over to here if they missed it on the first part. So yeah. I'm still not seeing any comments. So while we're doing this, I want to just say that the more your children are learning how to be encouraged in the retelling, again, this is natural. Children do this already on their own. You don't want to quiet them down. You want to definitely be pushing them forward. You want to definitely be encouraging it beyond the books, because it's in those moments that a child understands what narration looks like. They understand what retelling means because now they see it as part of their everyday actions, and then it doesn't become hard. It doesn't become laborious to them. So thank you, Kim, for letting me know you can hear. Perfect. All right, great. So if you guys have any thoughts on this, or you're just retaining, that's awesome. I'm going to go ahead, just keep dropping your comments in. I'm going to go ahead and go to step 3. Okay, step 3, you go deeper with a question or series of questions to evaluate what was retained. So here is where we're getting further into the Charlotte Mason method, where we're not just retelling or narrating, we're now having a question or series of questions. As your children get older, you're going to need more than just one question. And this is what Charlotte Mason calls evaluation. This takes place of test. And this helps you to be able to understand what they have retained through their living resources. So this is the opportunity. Retelling helps put it in the brain, to store it, to keep it there, which is why children who naturally retell their Disney movies remember every scene, is because they have retold it before. That same process is what helps a child retain what they've heard, what they've seen, what they observed, what they read, what they done. I'm trying to think of all 5 of this. What they've done, all of those 5 things, helps them retain it or be able to retell it so that they can retain it and recall it later. So this is where the removing of tests and bringing in the evaluations in the forms of questions allows you to embrace those living resources with confidence instead of concerns, because now you understand that whole process of how a child learns and how you can actually show through documentations of what they retained each and every year as they process through a term. So the best way to measure the effectiveness of the living resources in your children's education is through the demonstration of ideas in their lives. So let me explain this really quick. Children are wonderful creatures of habit, and when they learn something, they like to demonstrate it in their actions. Living is an action thing. It actually has life. It's animated, it moves, it has feelings, all of that kind of thing. So if your education and lesson forms is not being demonstrated in your child's life beyond their lesson time, then it's not really an effectiveness of living. It's not proving to be idea focused. It's not demonstrating that it's retained enough for it to actually impress on the child's mind, okay? So when you see a child acting out scenes from a book, when you see a child, painting pictures, or you see a child speaking vocabulary that they heard in a book, if you see a child demonstrating their lessons in some way, whether it's verbal actions, drawing, anything like that, you understand it's living. And it's all because ideas have been formed. So let's move on to the Charlotte Mason quote to help you understand just how important living resources are. Give your child a single valuable idea, and you have done more for his education than if you had laid upon his mind the burden of bushels of information. I absolutely love this quote because to me, it shows the simplicity of the Charlotte Mason way. It shows why we as Charlotte Mason mamas need to put those actions into place from beyond our lessons, beyond the books, and recognize the influences in our children's life, take advantage of being able to get those DVDs and those audios of people who know their stuff and have put it in option or put it in resources for us to be using in place of always having books, and allow our children to be supplemented in these ways. And we'll know that they're living by the ideas that our children are having through their action, right? But we're doing more for our children by us seeing these ideas play out in their life than we were if we were giving them a burden of bushels of information. And that leads me back to that very first quote that I shared in step 1, where it talked about the small successions, the endless successions of small things, the checkoff list. We want to be more intrigued and inspired in our children's education by watching for those things that show action in their day. We're not doing anything for their education if we're not seeing proof of living through their ideas that are demonstrated through their action. So before concluding today's show, what are your thoughts on step 3? You guys are really quiet today, which is unusual. The last couple of weeks, you guys have been very quiet. And maybe you're just processing. And maybe, again, it might be those winter blues where your children are going a little stir crazy and it's kind of loud. It's hard for you to concentrate. But what you want to understand is that this particular lesson will help you completely find the confidence in not just embracing the Charlotte Mason way, but begin to move towards the committing of using her methods inside your homeschooling. It's a real powerful opportunity for you. And I'm not seeing any comments, so I'm going to come back over here. So I've been talking a lot about living last week and this week, but what's really important is to understand the opposite of living, which is what Charlotte Mason calls twaddle. And so next week, I'm going to be coming live and I'm going to explain what Charlotte Mason means when she says twaddle and give you that clear understanding of what that is. You can join me on Facebook or on YouTube at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 10:30 a.m. Pacific Time. And these are almost weekly, so you can expect that, but I will definitely be sharing this next week. So I hope you join me live for that or grab the replay. And then if you haven't yet become a part of my free online community, I would love for you to search on Facebook for the Charlotte Mason Mamas. I share a little bit of insights into our homeschooling life, little things that we do here and there, but also you can have opportunity to ask questions and get support from other Charlotte Mason mamas who are working to commit to this way of homeschooling, living resources in their life, and I'd love to help you in there. And that concludes today's show. I'm really appreciated you guys coming and being a part of this, and I look forward to next time. Bye for now.